yourself and let me know. I'm just starting to walk on over to my spot now. Also, yeah, on Sundays especially, I'm gonna get my water. The bandwidth tends to be a little bit of an issue because everybody's trying to be together on Zoom on Sundays especially. All right, everyone. So I'm moving a little slow today. Yesterday was Passover, and I did a Seder, and it was the first time I ever hosted a Seder myself, and it was just me and Jamie because that's what we can do right now. Neither of us have been vaccinated yet. We are coming up soon. Hopefully we'll be together soon. So it was the first time I did it. Last year we sort of were like, we're not going to do a Seder. It doesn't make any sense. And this year I was like, no, I really want to do it. I feel like it's the perfect way. I don't know. It's like a really nice ritual. I don't know if any of you are Jewish or who have been to a Seder before, but it's the retelling of the first Jewish diaspora from Egypt. And the lesson from it is all about collective liberation and making sure that we don't forget our ancestry as Jews, that we pass along the history of our people, specifically in that moment, to the next generations, and that we recommit ourselves to fighting oppression and to the liberation of all people because we can see our struggle in them. So it got me thinking about this space and what we do here. And together, you know, we come here. Some of us are sort of like, this is a nice end to my week. Some of us are kind of like, this is a nice beginning to my week. But every time I hear from you, and I love hearing from you after class, I notice that it's kind of like a recalibration. And that's because there are two things that we do every week. We always work on our resilience. How long can I hold this thing? How far can I go? And you know, what's new in this place for me? And we do that on the map. And we also drop into mindfulness. So making sure that our brains are squarely inside our body or on the mat, wherever you need to be, that's as close as possible to going within. So I want to reiterate that the goal of doing those two things in yoga is to be able to achieve liberation. So the ancient philosophy of yoga and the outcome of following the 8 limbs of yoga is the same thing that we talked about last night and celebrated last night at the Passover Seder. And I think that it's just a really beautiful way to tie in, for me anyway, some of the things that I do with my life. And just to come to you again as kind of a guide. The things that are important about what we do here are resilience and mindfulness. And so the postures don't really matter that much. And whatever feels right in your body feels right in your body today. And feel free to do what you need to do, even if it's laying in legs up the wall the whole time we're here today. Sounds nice. But today I would really like to start in constructive rest. So we're starting on our backs, and you can make this real cozy. So I've got a blanket, and I'm actually going to show you a pretty cool blanket fold. So I've got a blanket. This is what it looks like folded in half, tassel to tassel. I'll fold it in half again, left to right, and then I'll fold it in half. This is the folded edge all the way to the tasseled edge. And then you'll see there's a side with a whole bunch of folds here. This side, I'm gonna fold 2/3 of the way down the blanket. So it looks kind of like an envelope, right? So this is gonna go, my head will be here, my neck will be here. I'm gonna take the top 2/3 of this blanket, the one with all of the folds. I'm just rolling the corners in so it really looks like an envelope now. And you can see how there's a kind of cradle. I'm gonna put my head on that. Oh yeah. Constructive rest is feet as wide or a little wider than your mat, knees tented into touch. And then you have choices here with your arms. Yeah, maybe one hand is on the heart, one hand is on the belly. For me, the length of my forearm doesn't allow my hand to like be on my chest. It usually like slides off to my boob, and so I usually don't go for this. I'll go for something like cactus arms, or I'll bring both hands to my belly if I'm feeling that. I think that's what I'd like today. But you could have your arms by your side or above your head. And I'd really love for you to notice your feet. Take your attention to the bottoms of your feet. Maybe pick up the toes and then place each toe back down, starting with the pinky toe, fourth, third, second, and big toe. Release there. Maybe even windshield wipering the knees side to side just a little bit. And then coming back, knees tented together. Feeling the sacrum, the flat part of your pelvis on the earth. You could press into the feet for a moment. Do a little bit of a crunch. Let's pull that pubic bone up toward your lowest ribs and then place the pelvis back down. Knees back together. Notice which parts of your spine are touching the earth. Notice your shoulder blades. Maybe press into your elbows, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and come back down. Replace the hands. Then notice the back of your head. And let's take 3 arrival breaths together. So inhale through the nose, hold at the top, exhale through the mouth. Let's exhale completely to prepare. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. Again, in. Pause. And out. Last one, in. Pause. And out. Good. And come back to your natural breath. Notice its path. In through the nose, maybe. Down the back of the throat. Perhaps into the chest. And then into the belly. And back out, belly, chest, throat, and nose. Follow that map of your breath again, inhaling and exhaling. On your next inhale, take a good morning stretch. Stretch your arms overhead and your legs nice and long. Point and flex the feet. I grabbed a hold of my own thumb. You could do that if you'd like. You could clasp your hands together, maybe turn the palms up. Overhead, really reach. Oh, and then exhale. Hug the knees into the chest, and your knees could be together. Your knees could be apart. Your legs could be a little straight, and you could be doing sort of legs up the wall if you'd like. Wherever you are, we're looking for that nice curved spine. So maybe we don't feel it so much here because the floor is inhibiting like our most curve, but maybe what you do feel is your whole spine against the earth. And I'm rocking side to side, which you are more than welcome to do. It feels really nice. Then I'm going to take my knees away from my torso and start to circle them in one direction. and then in the other direction. Good. I'm going to keep my right knee in toward my torso, and I'm going to rock it out to the right and then come back to center. Out to the right and then back to center. And maybe what you find is that when you move the right knee out to the right, that right femur bone sort of wants to stay to the outside of your rib cage. Let it. And then here, go for that right big toe if you'd like. Lift the right foot toward the ceiling, finding half happy baby here. You can always use a strap, and I'm going to have a strap handy because we will use this in progression. So you could stay here, or if you have a strap around your foot, here. And I like using a strap sometimes because I can get my elbow to the floor in that way. So maybe that feels nice for you today. You could stay here or begin to straighten that left leg nice and long. And I would really focus on that left knee. And if it feels okay, pressing the back of that left knee toward the floor. Nice flex in that left foot. From here, if you'd like, you could begin to straighten that right leg. And again, I would really think about the back of that right knee sort of moving toward the lower half of your mat. I'm going to keep pulling that right foot toward my face. And it doesn't have to be the most flexible you've ever been because we're just starting out. Notice what you feel. Maybe it's a little bend and a little straight. We're not ignoring that left leg and straight. You can allow that right leg to fall open to the right if you'd like. Your left arm could extend left, or you could keep that left hand on the front of the left hip, whatever feels good. And here, I'd like for you to notice your hip points. Just notice where they are in space. And what I like to do is think about my left hip point pulling up toward my left armpit. Notice if that brings your hip points a little more in line. I'm using a lot of muscular effort in the front of my body to really root myself down toward the earth. Inhale, bring that right leg to center. Switch hands with the strap, or if you have your foot, switch hands. My right arm is coming out to the right. You can take your right thumb into that right hip crease, and I like starting this way. Really root that right hip crease down and allow the right leg to fall over to the left just very slightly. You may have sensation that starts in the right glute and travels all the way up the right side of the leg to the pinky toe side of that right foot. Just notice that sensation. From here, I'm gonna lose the strap, hug my right knee back into my chest. It's a little bit crossed over. And I'm gonna continue to roll onto my left hip. You could pick up both of your hips, stack hip on hip, and drop that right knee over to the left. Notice your shoulder girdle. You could pick up your shoulders with your elbows and move them to the left to get that right shoulder closer to the earth. Maybe the right arm reaches out to the right. Nice spinal twist here. You could, if you'd like, bend that left knee and go for the left foot with the right hand, turning this into more of a cat pulling its tail posture. Take a couple of breaths here and come back to that map of your breath. In through the nose, down the back of the throat, into the chest and belly. Inhale, come all the way to center. Release all your things. Exhale here. Inhale, good morning stretch. Exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Maybe rolling around on the sacrum again, one direction. And then in the other direction. And we'll switch sides. Drop the right foot down to the floor. Keep the left knee in toward the chest. Rock that left knee open to the left, and then back to center. Left, and then center. And again, left, and then center. And just notice if that left femur bone sort of decides that it wants to be out past your rib cage. Maybe you have a strap handy. Maybe your left peace fingers go around left toe, finding your half happy baby. You could again use a strap here, and I really do like a strap here. Again, it helps my elbow reaches the floor. It can reach the floor, and I like that for stability here. Flexing that left foot. Just noticing how this side feels, and if it's any different. If it's any different from the other side. You could keep your right foot to the earth or extend the right leg nice and long. So I don't know if you can see this very well, but my heel, when I straighten my leg, my whole right leg is lifted off of the earth. And that's because the front of my right hip is really tight. So I'm actually just going to relax this leg for a moment. And then I'll do a little bit of like straighten and release and straighten and release to sort of get my right leg closer to the earth. The front of my right hip really needs some TLC. So just notice if you find things about this side or if you find things about this posture that are different or not working for you or where you need to move or change. We can extend that left leg. And when I do that, I'm just gonna sort of rock back to center on my pelvis and pull my left leg up toward my face. You could stay here, or you could allow your left leg to fall out to the left. I have to move over to accommodate my long leg. Yep. And then again, thinking about the hip points here. Yeah, this right hip point is what we'll focus on. Pulling that right hip point up toward that right armpit. It's almost like you're shortening your right leg. Inhale, come to center, maybe switch hands. Bring your left thumb into your left hip crease. Press that hip crease down and away. And then allow the left leg to cross over to the right just slightly. Again, you may feel some sensation lighting up that left glute, the left side of the left leg, all the way into the left side of the foot, maybe. From here, bend that left knee, release that strap, and keep rolling so that you roll onto your right hip. So I've got my left leg bent, left knee is out to the right side of my mat. My left arm is out to the left. Spinal twist. You could stay here or bend that right knee and go for the right foot with the left hand, cat pulling its tail. Notice what you need to do. Perhaps it's shifting the whole shoulder girdle to the right to get that left shoulder blade down onto the mat. And if it doesn't make it all the way down, that's okay. Feel this twist. Oh, good. One more inhale here and exhale here. And then inhale, roll all the way over onto your belly. Yes. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of tummy time for yogis. I'm just gonna move my hair out of the way. Tummy time for yogis is very fun. And Liz Alvarez, who's one of my mentors, she's a physical therapist and a yoga teacher, she loves tummy time for yogis. So I'm gonna come into Sphinx pose, but I want it to be cozy. So I'm gonna bring my lowest ribs and my whole chest. My lowest ribs are where my blanket ends, and the top, like right where my collarbones are where my blanket ends. And then I'll start to find Sphinx pose. I'm gonna start with a lower Sphinx. So my elbows are in front of my shoulder heads, and I'm clasping opposite elbows, but I'm doing some work. The tops of my feet are pressing into the earth so that the tops of my kneecaps come off of the mat. My shoulders all roll up, back, and down. Really press into the mat with my elbows and my forearms. Notice the breath here, and notice the breath pressing into the blanket or the mat or the floor. And if you'd like to, you could bring your arms parallel. You could begin to back the elbows up, finding a little bit of a deeper Sphinx pose. Think about pressing your sternum, the very center of your chest, straight forward. Think about what has to happen right behind your heart, so between your shoulder blades. They have to squeeze together to press this heart center open. Good. If you'd like to, if this feels good, I would maybe firm up the glutes a little bit to help here. You could lift the elbows from the mat and come into seal. Keep breathing and pressing the tops of those feet into the earth. Pressing the hands into the mat. Maybe the hands come a little wider. Again, shoulder blades come together to push the chest forward. Gaze is straight forward. If you'd like to, you could bend the left knee, pointing that left toe to the head. You can also lift the left knee just a little bit and bring it all the way down. Right knee you could bend, you could lift, bringing it all the way down. Inhale here and exhale all the way down to the floor. Maybe making a pillow with your hands. Little rock of the booty side to side. Perhaps big toes touch, heels come out wide, crocodile pose. And then bring your best gecko fingers with you. Tent your fingers and spin your fingers out left and right. So the thumbs are pointing in toward you just by virtue of having your palms up of the floor. Your wrists are underneath your elbows, and your elbows are at shoulder height. So if I drew a line from my elbow to my shoulder, it would be straight. My forehead is still on the earth, and all I'm going to do is press my fingertips into the earth. So inhale here. Exhale, press the fingertips. So my head is still on the floor, it's nice and heavy. And I'm just feeling the action of my shoulder blades coming together. And from here, I'll begin to lift the head. Then I can press into my fingertips even more to begin lifting the chest. Find a nice, slow roll up to your echo finger cobra, wide cobra. I'd love for you to take your gaze over your left shoulder if that feels good, toward that left heel. Inhale to center, and exhale, read the gaze over the right shoulder, taking a gaze at the right heel. Inhale to center, and exhale all the way down. Find tabletop position for a moment. And we're coming into child's pose. I'm going to open my blanket and bring my knees nice and wide, my toes together, and I will, from tabletop, sink my seat toward my heels. And if my seat does not make it to my heels, maybe I have a block, another blanket, or a bolster to sit on, yes? Then we can fold our torsos forward. Maybe we make it here, maybe we make it here, maybe we make it here. Maybe you'd like to use a prop for your upper body in child's pose. The bolster is really nice. 2 bolsters is really nice. A bolster on top of a couple of blocks can be nice. Get yourself as high as you need to in order to find a complete relaxation. So we've been on our back, we've been on our side, and now we are prone. So we are face down, and we've been face down a little bit. But just notice what it feels like to have your forehead connected to something. So if your torso is lifted, you don't have any props, you can always take your hands to your forehead and just allow your head to press into your hands. If your forehead makes it to the earth or to a prop, just rock your forehead side to side for a moment. Massaging the forehead in that third eye space. Inhale, come up onto your tippy fingers and walk your hands over to the left. If you have props, move your props over to the left so that perhaps it looks like this. And I've got the bolster on my left thigh. Fold yourself over to the left, finding a side bend here in child's pose. Notice your right side body. Notice especially the feeling from right pinky all the way up to a shoulder girdle. Notice the feeling between each of your ribs on the right side as you breathe. Notice maybe even in the lower back body where your kidneys are, yeah? Maybe there's some breath action happening there too. Inhale, fingertips to center, and exhale, walk your hands over to the left. Same dictum. So if you have props, they come over to the right leg. Feeling a stretch all the way from left pinky to left shoulder and in between each of the left ribs. Inhale to center and tuck those toes underneath. Move any props you don't need away from your mat and begin to come up to downward facing dog. And then in your downward dog, maybe locking the feet. Yes, maybe swiveling the hips. Maybe gazing up at the hands and then allowing the head to fall. And doing that a couple of times, like looking up at the hands on an inhale and then pulling the chin to the chest on an exhale. Inhale, looking at the hands, and exhale, chin to chest, and allowing your head just to hang. Maybe shaking the head no, nodding the head yes. If you'd like, you can take a twist here in your downward facing dog. You could stay in down dog, you could come down to tabletop, or you can plant that left hand very firmly. Right hand comes to the outside of the left leg. Could be thigh, could be calf, could be foot or heel. Pull the torso underneath that left armpit. Inhale to come out of the twist. Exhale, second side, left hand to the outside of right leg. Same 3 locations possible, just avoid the knee area. Inhale to come out of the twist, and then exhale, begin to walk the hands back toward the feet. You could have props here for your hands like blocks, or you could use my blocks were stolen by my dog. That's a story for another time. So maybe it's a yoga wheel or a chair instead today. And so for me, it's a yoga wheel and it's gonna support my head. Yeah. You could have your blocks under your hands if that's nicer. You could just have your hands on the body if that feels good. But take a moment in your forward fold to just bend your knees slightly and straighten them back. And bend. And straighten. And last one, bend. And then straighten. On your next inhale, come halfway up. Nice long spine. Bring your hands to your hips on an exhale. And then inhale, come all the way up to Tadasana. Just shake it out. See where you're feeling here. Yeah. So for me, I just need a little bit more. I need some quad opening. So I'm just going to do a pencil stretch quickly. Notice if there's something in your body that needs just a little more love at the moment. And why don't you just take a couple of breaths to do whatever posture standing or stretch standing that your body needs just for a moment before we get into our next stuff. Ooh, okay. Let's get yinny. So I want to start in yogi squat. So yogi squat in yin is really nice when it's propped. So maybe you have a blanket, a rolled blanket for underneath your heels. Maybe you can do yogi squat on a wheel. I don't know if any of you have a wheel, but look at how great it is. Maybe this is 2 blocks, maybe it's block hinge, but find your preferred yogi squat. And really, because we're in yin, we're looking to reduce muscular effort now. We sort of got a little bit of blood flow through the whole body. I'm going to choose some postures today for yin that are still they're not effortless. We're just reducing effort. So find your version of whatever yogi squat is comfortable. Take your time with it. Also, in the yin portion, I do use a timer. And I do it so that we do left and right side, same amount of time, and so that we move from one posture to the next with some structure. So instead of my knees squeezing into the elbows, my elbows pressing the knees away, I'm just allowing my arms and legs to be as they are. And in fact, keeping my fingertips pointed up toward the ceiling ends up being work for me. So I rotate my fingertips down toward the earth. And maybe that works for you, maybe it's different in your observation. But I'd love for you to notice where you are holding tension right now in this posture. And use your breath to go wherever your attention gets pulled. So for me, my attention is immediately pulled by the inside of my ankles. So I'm going to send breath to that area. And then I'm also noticing just underneath my right shoulder blade, a little bit of tension. Where does this happen for you? Scan the body and notice what you notice, and whatever catches your attention, send some breath there. Notice if it begins to unravel. Noticing if new places crop up, like the front wall of your armpit or your belly. Each breath is an invitation to release a little more tension. A couple more breaths here. Beautiful. And then I'd love for you to just place your hands in front of you or on some blocks, lift the hips, and come back into a forward fold, a little bit wider legs, maybe grabbing opposite elbows, and just rocking side to side here. I've got Ingrid here today, so I'm going to throw in one of her favorite poses, frog pose. So yes, I can hear the groans on the other side. I'm just kidding, I can't hear them, but I am intuiting them. So frog pose is awesome, and if you'd like to get into it, just go right ahead. I'm going to show you a couple of different options. I'm just going to give myself some extra cushioning on my mat, and I'm going to go lengthwise with this. I'm gonna face you. And the way that I like to start in frog is in tall kneeling. And then I just slowly begin to sort of allow my knees to come apart. This might not feel so great on the inside of your knees, so feel free to bring your hands down to the floor or to some blocks. Now in yin, we're really not looking for the most amount of flexibility or the furthest you can go. Rather, we're looking for about 60 to 80% of your regular posture so that your skeleton can settle into it. So notice how high I am off of the floor. So this is with my hips very aligned with my knees. If I were to bring my hips forward a bit, I can get closer to the floor. If I bring my hips back a bit, I get further away. So forward is closer for me, back is further away. And it doesn't really matter where you land, but make the space up between your chest and the floor using props. Find a position that feels like stretch, and then release the feet, release the legs, release the pelvis. Bring your whole torso to the floor or to a prop. And allow your arms to sink. And if you don't have a prop that's high enough, just come onto your forearms or onto your hands and know that the effort that you place into your hands or into your arms is okay. And that we'll try to soften everything else around it. So finding your front pose. You might also find that as time moves, you want to get deeper into the pose, whether it's moving your knees a little further apart from one another or backing your hips up. Just notice if you want to move, you can. And then coming back to the breath as always. What does your breath feel like in this position? Where do you feel it most? And which parts of your body are calling your attention? Can you go there with your breath? Bring your breath to that part of your body or parts of your body. Can it feel like a settling? Can this feel like a dropping in? Notice if your mind wanders. That's okay. We've got about 1.5 minutes left in this posture. I'm going to let you sit in it in silence, just noticing your thoughts. Notice if your mind wandered. It's okay if it did. And collect those thoughts back into this space. As you're ready, nice and slow, make your way up to a tabletop position. A table. Maybe swishing the hips left and right. Not staying here long. Take a deep inhale. Keep your hips over your knees and begin to walk your arms forward. Find puppy stretch. And in puppy stretch, you could bring your head or your chest or your whole belly, your whole body to a prop. Maybe you're up on your hands. But sits bones are nice and high. And we're finding a really nice curve all the way from the crown of the head to the tailbone. And if you'd like, you can play with the width of your arms. Maybe more width gets you closer to the floor. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what shape you're in. What matters is the ease with which you can let go of the muscular effort. So find your puppy stretch. And again, remembering that 60 to 80%. Like if I'm engaging muscularly, I can get my whole chest to the floor. But it is a lot of effort. You can hear it in my voice. Instead, I'm choosing to back it off just a bit so that I can release my muscles and allow time and gravity to do their thing. So find where you are. Notice what sensations this posture brings up and where you find them. See if you can send your breath to the places that call your attention. One more exhale here. And then inhale, walk the hands back, finding your tabletop once again. We're going to do a lizard pigeon combo today, all right? So left foot forward, right knee back. And for this lizard pigeon combo, I like to have a bolster underneath my hips for when I go down into pigeon, and it's just placed there. I'm totally hovering completely over it during my lizard run. So here, bring your hands to the inside of that left foot, right leg is back. You could have your hands on props if you'd like a wheel or blocks. And I'd like for you to do that same motion we did in the yang portion of class, moving that left femur bone out to the left and then back to its central position. Sorry, you couldn't see that. Out to the left and then back to its central position. One more, out to the left and back to its central position. And then let's find lizard, low lizard. So maybe hands are on blocks, maybe hands are on the floor, maybe you can get down to forearms. And I've discovered something about forearms for me. If I move my body over to the right, so my left foot's forward, if I move my body over to the right a bit, I can bring my torso closer to the earth. And you know, it's not a thing like you have to do it. It's just what do you want to do today and where do you want sensation? And don't be afraid to try something, right? And then need to move. That's okay. Again, we're really just looking to reduce muscular effort. So what do you need to do in order to make it so that You're not using all of this front body energy to pull yourself closer to the floor, or the back body energy to curl yourself in. How can you allow time and gravity to just sink? Where does your breath bring you? Take one more exhale here. And then inhale, come up onto your hands, walk your left foot over to the right side of your mat. And if you're like me and you have a bolster set up, allow the left knee and the left foot to be in front of the bolster. The bolster is underneath your whole pelvis so that both the front of the right hip and the left glute are supported. And stay upright just for a breath. Maybe your hands, right hand on left foot, left hand above left knee. Take a deep inhale and exhale. And then maybe the hands come forward of that leg. Yeah, we'll begin to come into a reclined pigeon or sleeping swan, prone pigeon, sleeping swan. Maybe the hands are here, yeah, and you're just beginning to walk forward. Maybe your arms come down to some blocks or maybe another bolster. Maybe your whole torso is supported by blocks, bolster, that wheel. Maybe you're like this, yes, so that this left shin bone is sandwiched between the two bolsters. Or maybe we're ready to come all the way out. And there's no better or worse. There only is what there is. Find your position. Find your breath. Notice where your body needs your attention. It will tell you. It'll say, woo, we feel this on the outside of the left hip. Or, wow, that feels crazy in my right back. Yeah, just notice, where is your attention? Sensations are not good or bad, they just are. See if you can use them as like X marks the spot on a pirate map. That's where you're sending them. Have a few more breaths here. If you'd like to move deeper, go ahead. Move a little deeper and see how that feels, just for a couple of breaths. See if you can melt away the first sort of tense moments in the posture. And then inhale, press into the hands. This is my favorite way to get out of this posture. Roll onto your left butt cheek. Swing the right leg all the way around if that feels good. We'll all bring our feet together. I'm still seated on top of my prop. Just shake out the legs, maybe wiggle the feet back and forth. I'm going to take a little fold. It doesn't have to be anything serious. Just a little fold. Symmetrical movement of the spine. Maybe I'll take a second one. Good, and then back to our tabletop position. You can just turn around if you like, but I'd like to give you the view from the other side. So from tabletop, I'm bringing my right foot forward, left knee back, and my bolster is still in its same position. It's just hanging out there underneath my pelvis for when it's time for me to move there. So for a lizard, once again, maybe there's props underneath your arms, whether it's a wheel like I'm using or some blocks, and we'll do that same motion. So right knee out to the right, and then back to center. Right knee out to the right, and then back to center. Again, out to the right, and back to center. And then maybe the hands come to the inside of the right foot. Maybe it's forearms. Maybe it's lower. Notice what it feels like on this side. I'll tell you what time does for me. What time does for me in this posture is it feels like the extended leg, so my left leg, it feels like that big ball and socket joint in my left hip is sort of lengthening backward. So it's really, in yin, we're really focusing on those still tissues, especially the skeleton and especially the fascial network, which covers the heads of your bones and into your connective tissue. So imagine that it's like this big left femur bone is beginning to travel backward. And see how that helps you find stillness and stretch here. Where is your mind? Where is your breath? How are you connecting those two? With each breath, can you release just one more thing? More breaths here. If you'd like to go a little deeper for funsies, just to see what's happening, go ahead. And then as you're ready, coming up onto your hands and walking that right foot over to the left. And again, if you have a bolster underneath your pelvis like I do, it is supporting my right glute and the front of my left hip. And just because on the first side, I really enjoyed having a bolster underneath my torso, that's when you start. I bring my hands either to my right leg or to the prop in front of you if you're using it. Just find some height. Inhale here. And then exhale, maybe we begin to fold. Only fold as much as is comfortable for you. You could be very high, and that's fine. As long as we are finding ways to reduce the amount of muscular effort we're making. So allowing the belly to hang heavy, the head to hang heavy. The face to release, like the space between and above your eyebrows, or your jaw, the tiny muscles in front of your ears, maybe the muscles of your cheeks. Maybe the tongue releases from the top of the mouth. Appreciating this breath. Appreciating this connection to the floor, to the earth beneath it. Notice when and where your attention gets pulled. And use that as a guide for your breath. A few more breaths here, and you can explore what it feels like to take this deeper or to come out slowly. Maybe 3 breaths. When you're ready to rise, press into your hands. Rock onto your right hip and swing the left leg forward. Finding your Dandasana, feet extended in front of you. Inhale, sweep the arms all the way up, and exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, fold. One more, inhale all the way up. And exhale this time, find your fold. I widened my feet apart a bit. I'm going to bring my wheel in between my legs for my head. And yeah, my seat is still elevated. And that feels okay for me. If that doesn't feel good for you though, you can always remove or come to the edge of your bolster. Notice especially how it feels behind your knees and make sure that you're not trying to press your knees into the floor. Rather, you've got soft knees. Just using this as a pause position. When your next inhale comes, begin to roll all the way up. You can move some props out of the way. All the way down to your butt. Whew. I'm going to keep this bolster very close by because we'll do a supported bridge. And actually, I've decided I'm going to use my round bolster. So my round bolster is a bit taller than my flat bolster. And so it'll give me a little more height in my supported bridge. But come on down to constructive rest once again. Give your pelvis some time to just be against the floor. Feet wide, knees touch. And I'd love for you to notice if you're experiencing any kind of release. Sometimes, and we just spent a lot of time doing asymmetrical poses where one leg is doing one thing and the other leg is doing something else. So sometimes that can kind of agitate the connective tissue that's between the two halves of our pelvis. So just notice if there's any release happening for you and allow it to be. If you'd like to during this pause, you can walk your feet out very wide and allow your knees to come in so that your whole femur bones are really internally rotating. Your knees could still be touching or they could be floating here. And maybe there's some sensation on the outside of your hips. Maybe. I'm very much on the inside of my feet. You can see the sole of my right foot. They're waving at you. So it's really a very big motion. And just notice what comes up for you here. Just a couple more breaths. And then inhale, lift the knees, bring the feet flat to the mat. The feet about hips distance apart. So if your hip points are here, draw in that straight line through the center of my thighs, down my shins, through the center of my feet, and that's hips distance. Yeah. I will prep for my bridge pose, pressing the feet into the earth, and I'm scooching my very tall, round bolster underneath my sacrum. For my arms today, I'm going to bring them all the way overhead, but I'm not going to keep my elbows straight. I'm just going to allow my arms to do what they want to do. You have options here. You could stay with your feet flat. You could change your arms into something that you like better than overhead. You can begin to extend the legs. You can do this one at a time or both together. This is a really nice front body opener. So notice if there are parts of your back body especially that crunch up, and see if you can let them go. Most notably, see if you can allow your glutes to be soft. See if you can allow your shoulder girdle to be soft. And then in your front body, notice the sensation at the front of your hips. Notice the sensation of your low belly. Notice the sensation of your navel center. Here, try to smooth out your breath. Deep inhales and complete exhales with no pauses in between. On your next inhale, bring your feet back flat to the floor if they were not already. And here I'd like for you to bring your arms by your side, palms face down, and when you're ready, just lift the legs up toward the ceiling. Notice I'm keeping a soft bend in my knees. This is a version of legs up the wall. It's a little more active than the restorative version, but we're keeping it yin. Like I'm not pointing or flexing my feet. My legs are sort of like jelly. The effort is in my low belly and my hip flexors. And everything else is just releasing. Taking a couple breaths like that in through the nose and out through the mouth. That feels right. Bringing the feet back down to the earth when you're ready. Lifting the pelvis from your prop and bringing the whole spine back down to the earth. Hanging out here connected to the earth for just a minute. And then when you're ready, you can set up for Shavasana. So I'm going to suggest a supported fish. And I'm gonna make it fancy. So for my supported fish, I'm gonna bring my tall bolster, my round bolster. If you have a couple of pillows, that works too. If you have a couple of rolled blankets or a couple of folded towels, that works also. Or you can just take regular Shavasana. I have my tallest bolster here, and it's right up against my low back. It's touching my low back. And I will lean all the way back on it for the top half of my body to open my arms to the side. For my lower body, I could bring my feet together, knees out wide, or I could use my second bolster underneath my knees, straighten my legs, and I'm actually going to bring it up into sort of a 45-degree angle here so that it fits really nicely underneath my knees. It might decide that it's tired of that position and wants to do something different. But notice the shape of my body. So from my hip crease all the way to my head, right? It's an opening, it's a curve. And then my pelvis is on the floor and my knees are bent so that I'm not using any effort here. Front, not using any effort here. The ankles. Any way you decide to be in Shavasana is the right way. This is the pose we use to release any and all effort. Releasing the effort that is in the muscles. Releasing the effort that controls the breath and returning to a natural breath. Releasing the effort it takes to focus. And just allowing this practice to integrate. Notice if there are places in the body where you are still holding tension, and use your breath to untangle and release. Finding stillness when you can. Friends, remember that you can stay in Shavasana for as long as you like. If your practice ends with me, I'd love to pull you out of it very slowly. So at first, notice where your mind went. And see if you can just collect your thoughts. Bring them back into the space behind your brow. Begin to deepen your breath, taking a couple of inhales through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Imagining that as you inhale, every pore of the skin covering your body is taking the breath in. And as you exhale, every pore of your skin over the whole body is breathing out. A couple of times like that. Whole body breathes. When you're ready, bring your feet flat to the floor. Remove any props that might be pulling your body away from the earth, like a bolster. And lay down in constructive rest on the floor for a moment. Feeling your feet, your pelvis, your whole spine, and the back of your head against the earth. Whenever you're ready, maybe pulling the knees in toward the chest, getting a full wind. Maybe rocking side to side, massaging the spine. And then rocking onto one side, it doesn't matter which, to pause in the fetal position. Taking a couple of breaths to notice the side body. And then slowly pressing yourself up to a seat. Doesn't matter which kind of seat, but keeping the eyes closed. And together, I'd like for us to rub the palms together. Keep the eyes closed, rub your palms together. And you can do this slowly or quickly, just generate a little bit of heat with your hands. And then cup your hands over your eyes. Blink open the eyes underneath your hands. Take your eyeballs and look all the way up. Look all the way down. Look all the way to the left. And all the way to the right. And then maybe making a big circle in one direction. And then in the other direction. Close the eyes gently. And release the hands, maybe to heart center here. Bowing the head toward the hands in a gesture of gratitude. Thank you so much for coming together with me to practice, to fill our own cups so that we might be filled for this struggle for all to be happy and free. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with me today. So I'll come up and say hi. I only have a few minutes, but I'd love to chat, see how you're doing. And, if you can't stay, that's just fine. If you can, stay and say hello. And I will hopefully see you next week. I'm just going to switch over to my other computer. Well, to my computer. I'm also going to stop recording.